Hi, in my last video, I did a video on how to create a basic body block, having a shoulder dart and a waist dart. And I did it manually. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do that same basic body block, but we are going to be using an online, completely free pattern drafting system called the Fashioner. If you don't know what the Fashioner is, I have a video where I actually introduced you to the Fashioner. I talked about what the Fashioner can do, and I talked about the fact that it is completely free. I will link the video right here, and I also put the link under this video so that you can go ahead and watch it. Please bear in mind that this is the 4th video in my series of online pattern drafting class. So it will be best you go watch the videos before this video, which I will link below this video, so that you can follow along and understand when we start using most of the terminologies I'm going to be using to be able to show you how you can upgrade your pattern drafting from doing it manually to actually doing it online. You need to go with the trend. Everything now is digital, and that includes fashion and pattern drafting. So welcome to this video as I take you along to show you exactly how you can use this completely free, user-friendly online pattern drafting system. So let's go. First, you put in Fearless Makers on your Google and it takes you to this website. And I'm already logged in my account. If you don't have an account, it's quite easy to create an account. Get to the Fashioner, go to Catalog, and this is where you have all kinds of patterns that are already drafted in this free pattern making software. I have a video I'll link right up here, introducing this software to you. But right now, let's go to the blank canvas. And when you get here, you choose your measurement set. If you don't know how to create a measurement set, I also have a video where I actually explain how you can incorporate your measurements into the software, which I'm going to link below this video. So this is the measurement set I'm going to use. And I'll click on that, then I'll click on Add the Fashioner to the basket. Takes you to this page where it shows you different kinds of variables. You can understand all this by reading the Fashioner manual. So for this video, we'll just click on the Fashioner. And once you click on it, it takes you to this blank canvas, and this is exactly where we are going to be creating our pattern. We go to layers, select active layer that we are going to be working with, and we are going to select the Fashioner draft, and we are going to save it. And we are ready to work on this. This is what we are going to be creating, which I did in my last video. You can go ahead and watch it. We did this manually. A basic block having this shoulder dart and the waist dart. So you can go ahead and watch it. I will link the video below this video. So right now, we are going to create a square measuring 23 by 23 inches. But remember, we are using centimeters. So first we go to what you call add free point. Create any point and then click it and then add point from point. You click on the point that you started with, click on continue, and then we are going towards the Y axis. That is, we are going horizontally to create the first line of our square. And there you have your point, you save it, and then go back to points, add point from point again. Click on the point we are starting with, and then we are going now on the x-axis, and then we are going to put our 57.5 centimeters. That is 23 inches. As I said, we are working with centimeters. That's essentially how we are going to create this square. It's essentially the same process. As you can see, whenever you want to add another point, just click from the point you're starting with, either on the Y position or on the X position. So that's how simple it is. So when we are done with that, we're now going to create our lines. Go on the line, add a line, select the point we want to form the line. We select the 2 points and we save it, and you see the line is formed. So we are going to do the same thing to form our square that we are going to be working with. So now you understand how to create lines and how to create points. So those are the two basic things we are going to be using now to create lines and to create points. So we now have our square complete, and this is where we are going to be carrying out our pattern drafting. So the next thing we need to do is to measure 5 centimeters from one end of the square and label it as point A. This is where we are going to start from this point towards the x-axis, and we are going to label it as point A. So we go to add point on line. So first you select the line. This is the line we want to use. So once you select the line, it will turn red, and then you click on continue, click on the line, and then click continue again, and then we are forming 5 centimeters from the end. So you just scroll, use that scrolling and be looking at your centimeters from the end. As you can see, it's changing as we scroll it until you get your 5 centimeters. You could always write it direct if you want, or you could continue to use the scroller until you get the exact 5 centimeters that you want. And that is our 5 centimeters, and we have saved it. And we are going to square that down to the bottom line. So that is our 5 centimeters. And now we are going to label that point A. So we go to utilities, add text on point. So you select where you want to put the text. That is where we want to put our text. Continue. And then we give our text the name, and we are naming it point A. You enter, click on enter, and then you save. And there we have our point A. So now we'll divide that square we just did into 2 equal parts. So we'll come back here to our square, and we go to points, add point on line. You select the line you want to add the point. You click on the line, continue, and then you can see the point of the line is directly at the center. Divided the line into 2 equal parts. So we don't need to do anything. The points, we already have our points there saved. So let's so we are just going to do the same thing on this other line. And this is where we're going to add our text A. Sorry for the previous one. This is where we're going to put our A. Because remember, this is supposed to take the front pattern and the back pattern. So that is where our point A is. So that's what we're going to be working with now. So now we're going to measure from A to the left x-axis your full front length measurement, and we're going to label it as point B. My full front length measurement is 48.3 centimeters. So I'm going to do add point on line again. I'm going to choose the line that I want. Oh, sorry, add point from point. And here we are going towards the left on the x-axis. So you need to put a negative. When you're going towards the left side on the x-axis, you put a negative before your actual value. The same thing goes with the y-axis. If you're going towards the upper part of the y-axis, you also put a negative. So now it's negative 48.5 to get my full front length measurement. So once you put that, enter and then click on save. And that is my full front measurement. Then we're going to add text at that point. So essentially you're beginning to get how to use adding text at point, how to add lines, how to add point from point. So those are essentially the basic things that you need to do. So I'm going to square down from B to another point, and that is point C. And of course, I'm going to draw a line joining that B to point C. And that line I'm going to call my waist line. You see how I'm able to write between 2 points. It's quite different from writing on the point. So once you go to utilities, as you saw it, very simple. So now we are going to, from point B, we are going to mark our bust arc. So from the point B, we are going to mark our bust arc on the waist line. My bust arc measurement is 26.7. So I'm going to add point from point. So from point B, I'm going to add along the y-axis, and I'm going to add my bust arc measurement, which is 26.7 centimeters. And I'm going to enter, and that's the point right there. And that is my point C. Good. So now we've created A, B, and C points. The next thing, we are going to connect point C to the A line and label as CF. And that is going to be our center front. So you're just squaring down from that point C onto the A line, and that will form our center front. And that point, we are going to call it point D. So essentially, I believe you're beginning to understand little by little. So from that point D, we are going to measure your front neck width and mark it on the A line as point E. My front neck width is 7.6 centimeters. So add point from point, starting from point D, continue. Then I'm going to put the front neck width, and we are going on the Y position, and we are going upwards. So remember to put the negative sign before you put the value that you want to put. That is the wrong value. So it's essentially the same process. Once you get your point, you know the direction to go to, you know how to label that point, so they can help you when you're doing the other things. So that's essentially how to use this software. As you can see, it's really user-friendly. So next that we have to do now is from point D, we are measuring along the x-axis your high point shoulder to collarbone. Your high point shoulder to collarbone. My high point shoulder to collarbone plus 1/8 of an inch is 7.9. So add point from point. So from point E, continue. And we're going along the x-axis. So it's going to be negative because we are going towards the left part of the x-axis. And then I'm going to put my value for my high point shoulder to collarbone, and that is 7.9. I'm going to save it. I'm going to measure the same 7.9 from point D so that I can make a square where we are going to draw our neck curve. So add point from point. Sometimes you have to really focus to be able to click for it to show red. For it has to show red before you can now go and add what you want to add. So essentially it's the same value on the X position going towards the left side. That is why we put a negative. So once you understand those principles, you're good to go using this. So we're going to add lines to form a square. So add another line from that point to this point, continue, save, and we have our line. So what we are going to do next, we are going to draw a line to meet CD. Okay, I've done that. From point G, we are going to measure 1/4 of an inch. That is 0.63 centimeters from point G. As you can see, that is our point G. Then you measure 1/4 of an inch. That is, we are preparing now to create the neck curve. So now we are going to draw a curve from point E to point H. So let me show you how to get the curve. Get to the curves, then click Add Curve. Select the start and the end point. The start point is point E, and the end point is point H. Then you click on Continue. Then curve points 1. So how many points do you want that will help you to be able to draw the curve? 1 is okay because this is quite small. So as you can see, that point is where you're going to be using your cursor to draw your curve to where you want your curve to be. As much as you want your curve to be, just use your cursor and be drawing it. And that is our neck curve. Essentially, that is how to draw a curve using the fashioner. So now we are going to be creating our bust line and of course our bust span. So we are going to create a point from the shoulder to where we have our bust measurement, that is the box apex measurement, And then I'm going to square down to the center front, and I'm going to mark this point as I. I have marked my points. As you can see, I have marked the bust line from the shoulder to the bust, and I've also marked my bust span. What I'll do the same thing to get that measurement here. All you essentially need to understand is that with this free online pattern making software is that if you're going along the exact axis and you need to create a point, you just add a negative to whatever that your measurement is in centimeters. Or it depends on whatever you use to start. So that's the basic principle. Like this is a y-axis, and because I'm measuring from here towards this direction, I put a negative. Like right now, I'm going to measure the same bust span on this waistline. So I'm going to go to the y-axis position and I'm going to put a negative. As I've already explained, I'm explaining this because I'm going to do others without video, because it's going to make this video too long. So I'm going to put all the points. Then when I come to anything that I've not talked about, then I will now video it. So I'm taking my time to tell you that when you're going on your y-axis upwards, it's negative. If you're coming this way, you don't need to put anything, it's positive. On the x-axis, if you're coming this way, it's positive. If you're measuring anything from this way, it is negative. So those are just the things you need to bear in mind when you're creating your patterns using this free online pattern making software. So I'm going to square across here down and draw the line right here so that we can now create our dots. So now let's create our dart intake. The very first thing you need to do is to create a point from B to another point that is 2.5 centimeters away, and I'm going to be using this point to get that done. So now we are going to measure our dart intake right here, and to do that with the fashioner, first we are going to measure the point J to point C, and we are going to write down the measurement. So how do you measure from one point to one point using this software? All you have to do is to go to utilities and then go to distance between points. And then you're going to mark the point you want to measure, like I want to measure this point and this point. And we are going to go to calculate, and it tells you the 24.20. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write down that value, and then I'm going to subtract my actual front waist width value from that value to be able to get my dart intake. And when I do that, I get 3.3 centimeters. So it is that 3.3 centimeters that I'm going to divide into 2 so that I will have 1.35 centimeters on this side and 1.35 centimeters on this side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a point from here to here, 1.35, and from here to here, 1.35, using add point from point. So now I have my points. I'm just going to join the points to form our waist dart. So next, we are going to input your armpit to waist measurement. And we're going to start from point J to where that measurement intersects the line A to line B. So this is our point J. So your armpit to waist measurement is going to be from this point to where that line intersects here. That means from this, my armpit to waist measurement is 24.1 centimeters. That means from here So wherever that 24.1 stops along this line, I'm going to input my armpit to waist measurement. And the way I'll do that is that I'll measure this from this point to this point. And to do that, I've shown you before, you just go to utilities, distance between points, you mark the point, so I go to calculate. As you can see, that's the distance, but my waist to armpit is supposed to be 24.1, so I'm going to add about 3.6 centimeters. So I'm going to do a point from this point, 3.6 centimeters, so that when I measure from this point to that new point, it will give me my armpit to waist measurement. So I've added the 3.5 point to point, and then if I now measure from here, sometimes it's difficult to get this. I measure distance between points. I'll now select and also select this one, and I calculate. You see, it gives me exactly the distance that I want. So now I'm going to just draw my line from here to here. So from point K, we are going to measure your armhole depth and mark it as point L. So this is a point K, that is from our waist to armpit length. So from here we are going to measure the armhole depth, and we are going to mark it as point L. And once we get our point L, we are going to come in by 1.25 centimeters so that we can form our shoulder. So now we are going to join point M to point E to form the shoulder line. So we are going to go to lines, add line, and we are going to choose where we want the line to occur. Okay, because of these 2 points, they're asking me which particular one that I want. So from there to here, continue. So that's our shoulder line. So what we're going to do now, we're going to find the midpoint between this shoulder line. So I'm going to go to point on line. I'll select my line. And continue. Point on the line. I'll continue. As you can see, immediately gives me the center point that divided it into 2 equal parts. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to join this point to this point, and this should be the center point for our shoulder dart. And to do that, we are going to join point to point. No, I'm going to go to lines, add line. This point, continue, save. So now we're going to get our dart intake, and we're going to use the same formula we used for this. You're going to measure your M to E, write down the measurement, and then you go and subtract your shoulder length measurement from your M to E measurement, and that will be the dart intake for the shoulder. I repeat, just measure M to E, which I've shown you before how to do that. Once you get the measurement, you write it down, and then you get your own shoulder length measurement and subtract it from M to E, and that value you get is what you divide into these 2 spaces to get your shoulder dart intake. So after doing my own calculations, after subtracting my shoulder length from M to E, I got 7.2 centimeters, which are divided into 2 to get 3.6 on one side and 3.6 on one side. So I'm going to join these 2 points to the apex to form my shoulder dart. So now let's remove all these green dots so that you will not be confused, because what we are working with are the black dots. So to remove those dots, we just go to points and we go to delete points, and then you're going to select all these green points that we need to delete. Make sure it turns red when you select them. So once you've selected all your dots, you now hit on continue and save. So all those green dots are gone. So we have all the dots we are going to be working with. So now we are going to go to the next stage, which is to register our darts. So in this section, we are going to be registering our 2 darts. The reason you register darts on the fashioner is so that when you want to do some dart manipulations, it will be very, very easy for you to do such manipulations. So to register this dart, first you go to darts, we go to register dart. To ask you select the dart pivot point, and this is the pivot point, so we select it and then you click on continue. Select the dart leg point that will stay. You know, when you're folding your darts, a particular dart leg stays and a particular one is folded over it. So what you need to know is that vertical darts are pressed to the side, and this is a vertical dart. So this dart will be pressed to this side. So that means this particular leg of the dart will stay. It will not move. This is the one that will be moving over, folded over to this side. So we now select this leg. That's the leg that will stay. And then we click on continue. Then select the dart leg point that will fold over. So this is the one that will fold over. So we now select that one as the one that will fold over. So once you've selected the dart leg point that will fold over, you click on continue. Then select the point representing fold direction. That means we are folding this dart towards this direction. And this is the dart leg that will stay. So the next point, the direction is this point. So we are going to click that point. And then we are going to do continue. So we're going to name the dart, and I'm going to name this dart as my waist dart. Enter, and we are going to continue. So save. We've registered this dart, but have you noticed that the point has moved a little bit down? Showing you that when you're folding your dart, normally it's not normally straight. Normally makes allowance for the fold. So that's just the way to register this dart. But then we are going to make sure that the length of the dart is equal. Sometimes it's equal, but it's good to make sure that the length of the dart is equal. So to be able to do that, just measure from this point to this point, measure from this point to this point, and be sure that the dart legs are equal. So let's say I want to measure, you just go to utilities. I've shown you how to measure lines. Utilities, distance between points. So I'm going to measure from this point to this point and calculate it, 20.44. So I'm going to do the same thing again to measure the other one to ensure that it's the same length. So you see that the dart legs are the same, so that is okay now. So I'll now go ahead and register this dart as just with the same method I used to register this waist dart. After registering the shoulder darts, you discover that the 2 dart legs are not equal. So to make sure that the 2 dart legs are equal, we'll go to darts, We'll now go to adjust that leg. Select the point of the dart leg that is the correct length. So select this one. So this is the correct length. We'll continue. Select points is not part of the dart. So we select the point of the dart leg that is the correct length, and then we click on continue. As you can see, it has shifted. It has shifted. Everything has changed if you look at it. And so now we save it. So that now is the correct way that we are going to be folding our dart. Now we are going to create our arm curve. To do that, you get your front depth, your front width depth measurement. Please refer to the download to be able to know how to get that. So we're going to be measuring that measurement from this point G on the center front line. So I'm going to get my front width depth measurement. I'm going to mark it, and from that point, which will be my point N, I'm going to measure my front chest width measurement divided by 2. So now you need to pay attention here. Now from this point N to this point is supposed to be my front chest width divided by 2. But you find out that when you're doing this manually, you need to fold your dart to be able to get the right point that will help you to draw your armhole. So what I did now is to create a dart on the line, on these 2 lines, and I'm going to measure the distance between these 2 darts. And then I'm going to add that to this. That will give me the correct distance that will help us to draw our armhole. You know how to put a dart online. You just go to point, add point online. So once you do that, you'll be able to create your 2 points. And then I want to measure the distance between these 2 points. So if I go to utilities, add utilities, distance between points, then I'm now going to find out the distance between these 2 points. To calculate it for me is 2.78. So this 2.78 is what I'm going to create a point from here, add 2.78. So now that I've added the extra distance due to the dart, so that is the point that will be our point O. So now to form our curve, you're going to join point K to point O to point M to form the arm curve. And to do that, which I've shown you before, the same way you formed the neck curve, you just go to curves, you'll go to add curve, select start and end point. So our start point will be M, our end point will be point K, and we're going to continue. Curve point 1, I think I'll take curve point 2, and then we're going to continue. So that is how we are going to draw this to be able to get your arm curve. So we'll just draw it and draw it until it meets the O. So we get our arm curve to be very precise. So that's it. It's almost at O. Good. So that is our arm curve. And once you've done that, just click on Save. That's as easy as it can be. So that is our basic body with shoulder dart and waist dart, using a completely free online pattern making software called the Fashioner. In this last section, we are going to do some finishing touches on our pattern, our basic bodice pattern with shoulder dart and waist dart. The first thing you need to do is what we call to save in this state. And the reason you need to do that is that if you want to use this as a base to create other patterns by doing some pattern manipulations, you need to save it in this state so that you can go back and do any kind of manipulations you want to create different styles from this basic block. And to do that, you just go to File, you go to Save State, Basic Bodice Block with shoulder and waist dart. I'll add something there. State. Manipulation state. And then I will save it. So that's the one I'm going to be using to do the manipulations. And then once I'm done with that, I'm now going to remove all unnecessary lines. Like this line, I'll remove it. I'll remove this line. And then we'll convert this curve to a line. So let me do that first. And to do that, you go to Curves, Curve to Line. Select a curve to convert. So we'll just select, this is the curve we want to convert. And we click on Continue. We're going to keep the shape of the curve and continue. And we save. So now this is no longer a curve, so it's now a line. So that's how we are going to keep it. And then we're going to remove this line. We'll just go to Lines. We'll go to Delete Line. And then we're going to choose this line. And we're going to click on Save. And the line is gone. So we'll do the same with this. We'll go to Lines. Delete Line. Go to Line. Save. And the line is gone. So now that there's no line here, we're now going to draw a line from all the points so that it will be exactly the way it's supposed to be. So after removing the lines, we're now going to join the points so that we get this curve at the dart point, because it's not supposed to be straight. So what you do now is to go to Lines, Add multi-point line. Now we are going to select the points that we want the line to form. So I'm going to select this, select this, select this. No, there were 2 points there. So that's point 227. Select this, select this, and then continue. And you see that if you look at it very well, you see that it curves down here, comes up, and then it comes there. So we save it. So that's it. So now once you've removed all the unnecessary lines you do not need, all you have to do now is to download your pattern. And to do that, you just go to File and go to Export PDF and choose A4. Because it's going to be printed from your normal home printer in A4 paper. So you choose A4. And then make sure that the drafting layer is hidden before printing or the print will fail. So select the layer visibility, and then hide the draft layer and any other that exceeds the pattern area. So let's do that. So first of all, we need to copy the area that we want to copy. We want to photocopy. We want to print out, sorry. The area we want to print out. You go to Utilities, click on Copy to New Layer, and then you're going to highlight all the areas as I've done so that we want to copy to a new layer. And then we're going to click on Continue. So once we've selected it, we will now move these items to this layer that we've already created. Now we are going to save it. Good. So I think I'll repeat that. If you want to download, you go there to File, Export as PDF, go to your A4. Then it tell you to go to layer visibility and hide the draft layer. Right now we are on the fashioner draft, so okay. We'll now go to layers, we'll go to layer visibility, and once I click here, it will hide all this draft that I did and only show the areas I want to be downloaded. And that's exactly what has happened. It has downloaded there. And when you click on the download, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. As you can see, that's what it looks like. This is about 4 sheets of A4 paper. 4 or 5 sheets of A4 paper that you're going to put together to form your pattern. If you don't know how to put the patterns together, I'll link a video right here where I talked when I was introducing you to this Fashioner, the free online pattern making system, where I showed you how to go and, read how to put this together. It's very easy. You just follow all these dots and put them together. And then once you do that, you try it on your body to see the fitting, and then you are sure that the fitting is okay. And then you can now use this as a baseline to do other styles by doing pattern manipulations.